Got it. So we have a question in the audience that's relevant. So someone is asking, did you start all of your units de novo or did you acquire existing franchises? And what are your thoughts on acquiring existing franchises?
Yeah,
Buying
we've
them.
done both. We've done both. We've done new builds and we've done acquisitions. I go back and forth a lot about what's the better path. Um, I think if you're trying to own your own real estate, I think doing the development yourself is probably the optimal path. If you're trying to grow at a really big scale, you're going to have to do acquisitions. I mean, it's impossible, especially still today. It's just impossible to build fast enough if you want to get to like a really big scale. And I would say, as a general rule, it's probably going to be easier to and quicker to make money if you're doing an acquisition. But again, there's all of these little things that's going to kind of dictate whether the acquisition makes sense. Kind of going back to, is it a good location? Was it just run poorly? Do I think I can increase the sales? You think of a drive-through restaurant example. Is the ingress egress good, or is there a median going down the middle of the road that's always going to limit the sales? Did they not do like, I mean, we did acquisitions after COVID where people weren't even using third-party delivery, so like I knew I could instantly add 10% to 20% sales on the top line just from adding that. So I mean, there's a million ways to look at it, but I think if the deal makes sense, then acquisitions are a great path and avenue, and it can certainly get you in the game quicker too. I mean, if you're going to build your own, it's going to take a while. I mean, if I wanted to build a brand new Zaxby's ground up starting today, I mean, it'd probably be at least a year before I could get the doors open, and that's probably quick. It's probably closer to 18 months. Whereas if you do an acquisition, you can theoretically be in business tomorrow. So
I guess,
there's lots of pros and cons to both.
is it true that franchisors typically, like if you're already a franchisee in the system, it's easier to see deal flow? So is it easier to acquire after you built out the first one?
Oh yeah, that's a great question too. Yeah, I mean, it's a little different in any franchise you look at, but by and large, when a franchisee goes to sell their business or their real estate or whatever, generally the people that are going to get the first look at it are the people that are already in the system. Like that's not true 100% of the time. That there's still plenty of good deals that don't get presented to the internal franchisees first, but yes, by and large, that is kind of a built-in advantage of franchising, is that when one of your peers goes to sell, you're generally going to be one of the first to look at the deal. So like that's why going into any brand that like Mr. Flynn is, which Greg Flynn's the biggest franchisee in the world. So I doing any deal in those brands would scare me, because you can pretty reasonably assume that Greg already passed the deal if anything from any of those brands comes into the open market.